Hello, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have a full review of the Realme C53. Let's get started. This is a device that is aimed at the medium-low range. However, in Mexico it has a price that, from my point of view, could be more competitive, since it is distributed at 4,999 pesos. On the screen you see the reference price in dollars, just to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as there. In Mexico, its official distributors are Telcel, Sears, and Coppel. I think that when you find it more economical, it could be more attractive. But anyway, let's know it point by point, so you can see for yourself what it can offer. In the design, we could not get so demanding, since we are talking about a device that is not so expensive, and I think that in this sense the device does meet what one could expect at this price. We have a design with drop notch at the top. The lower frame is a little larger, but I insist that the screen utilization, if it goes according to what we could expect in this price range. However, we must consider that this front does not offer us a special glass to give us a little more security against any fall. Then we have neither Gorilla Glass or any other special glass as Realme presents in devices of higher ranges. On the right side we have the fingerprint reader that at the same time is the power button. We also have volume buttons. At the top we have absolutely nothing. On the left side we have the tray where we can place micro SD card and also 2 nano SIM cards, although this may vary depending on the region, and in fact if you buy it with Telcel, the second tray will be blocked. On the bottom we have headphone jack, also a microphone, USB-C port, and the speaker. The back cover is probably one of its most attractive points due to the finish it has, which looks like a brushed plate. However, to the touch it is completely smooth, but definitely that this textured aesthetic finish gives it an attractive touch, unlike other devices that in this price range have designs a little more boring to call them somehow. In this case, I have the gold color, but it is also available in black color, and probably also the distribution of the cameras reminds you a lot of what Apple does with the iPhone. Therefore, the look definitely that can come to impress some people in this price range, although it is simply the aesthetics, the operation, definitely that will be different. However, it also offers us a very slim design at 7.49 millimeters thick and weighs 182 grams, so it is comfortable to hold in the hand, although straight lines predominate. So it is not as comfortable as devices that have slightly more curved lines, but it is definitely a nice device, although it does not offer great aspects in terms of resistance or materials. The screen is 6.74 inches and is definitely a large panel, but does not have so much quality in terms of viewing experience. Is IPS, but the most basic. In fact, it looks more like a TFT screen, because when you turn to the side you will notice that much brightness is lost. So it is a device that I would recommend if you are going to view the content from the front. But if you want to share content with friends, probably those who are watching the content from the side will not be able to appreciate anything. The colors are fine if you see the screen from the front. We also have a sufficient brightness if you see the screen from the front, but from the side or outdoors the brightness could also fall too short. Fortunately, the resolution is good, reaching full HD, plus being 1080 by 2400 pixels. Specifically, the ratio is 20:9. So it's very traditional in the market. The display is very traditional in terms of screens, and with respect to other things, it offers us 90 Hz as its refresh rate, so that it is able to show movements in a relatively fluid way, although as a user you can also lower it to 60 Hz so that it does not consume so much energy, as you can notice when visualizing the white backgrounds. White is where you will notice that this screen loses too much brightness when you see it from the side, and the maximum brightness can become insufficient when it is touching the sunlight directly. But fortunately, the minimum brightness is down to considerably low levels so that the use is comfortable at night or in dark scenes. Also, if you have a visual rest mode and has two modes of color calibration, whether you want a little more intense or slightly softer colors. However, not being an AMOLED screen is not able to give you very vibrant colors. We are definitely in front of a simple screen that will not stand out in virtually any aspect in this price range. Now you're about to listen to an audio recorded with this device.
Esta es una prueba solo para que notes la calidad de grabación que podría llegar a ofrecer este celular.
Please note that it only has one microphone, so it offers a very simple sound recording that will not have any type of noise reduction or even record in stereo. So the audio talking about the input is very simple, and talking about the output also, because it only has one speaker, so it does not offer stereo sound, although in the price range this is something a little more common, being Motorola of the few brands that does offer stereo sound. But Realme will also offer mono sound, so it is simple. But what do you think if we listen to a test? But remember that it is not the same listening to it live. Again, it offers us a very simple sound that, as you can see, it has a volume amplifier when it is at its highest that tells you 150% in the reproduction that the only thing it does is to increase the volume or the gain of the treble, but in general the sound could become distorted a little bit more. In fact, it is not a speaker that has much quality, so it definitely does not come well complemented either through software, because it only has real sound technology, which is something similar to Dolby Atmos, but developed by Dolby Atmos, but it is developed by the same way that it has been developed by Dolby Atmos. But developed by Realme and some other companies. As all account, this is only enabled when you connect headphones, but you cannot access the different surround sound presets that if you have available in higher end devices of the same brand. And with respect to wireless sound, only brings support for basic codecs SBC and AAC, therefore does not bring some high resolution codec for wireless sound, although that is something rare to see in devices of this price. The front camera is an 8-megapixel camera with f2.0 aperture. As expected, the capture is quite slow, especially if you have enabled the automatic HDR option. This option you can turn it off, on, or set it to automatic. It also has a beauty mode with different parameters such as soften the skin, make it smoother, brighten the face, change the skin tone, enlarge the eyes, and reduce the cheeks. Although honestly it does not look so fake. The result does not have a burst by holding down the shutter. But fortunately in the settings it does have the capture enabled by gestures in case it is difficult to reach the shutter. So, you can show your palm and it has a countdown to take the picture. In fact, it also has smile shooting, although that's a little used feature. The selfies with good lighting, I think they come out well, with a good level of detail and good enough colors. Despite having fixed focus, even if you are with your arm away, we do have a good level of detail without being spectacular, but for publications in your Instagram is fine. Indoors, it's gonna lose level of detail and a little more noise and grain will appear, but nothing really serious. I think it's still a good thing for Instagram. In backlit scenes, the preview still doesn't look optimized, but it does have automatic HDR. However, after taking the picture, it doesn't manage to process the highlights and shadows in such a spectacular way, so a lot of the picture can still come out burnt, so it's not one of its strongest points. Yes, you can take portrait pictures in selfies, however, it is not able to detect objects, and edge detection on people can be a little inaccurate in some areas. At night, the result is what you would expect, i.e., we have little level of detail, but fortunately we don't have such an extreme presence of noise, so the result is still positive. If you're in an area of indirect light at night, the detail is going to decrease, and it's not as capable of picking up as much illumination, so we also see a more grainy photograph. And on backlit nights, it's definitely not going to be able to illuminate the face well. You can use the screen as a flash simulation, and it does try to light you up a little bit better, but it's not quite enough, although it's what one would expect in a device of this price point. On the back, although it looks like it has 3 cameras, it actually has only one. It is a 50-megapixel one with f1.8 aperture and autofocus. It has another camera, but honestly, I wouldn't consider it a camera, as they simply say it's an artificial intelligence camera. The resolution is not specified by the manufacturer, but apparently it is 0.3 megapixels. From my point of view, it is a completely useless camera. And well, the third circle is simply the flash. Capturing these pictures is faster speed, unlike the front camera. And if we hold down the shutter, we have a burst of up to 20 pictures, although it's not that fast. What you will notice is that we have access to some filters that we can't preview in real time, but we can choose to have the photo come out with that color adjustment. If we tap on the screen, we can adjust the focus and also the exposure of our photograph. But this cell phone also brings the manual mode. In it, we can modify the exposure compensation, the shutter speed that can reach up to a fifth of a second, but we do not have such a long exposure. We can also modify the focus, the ISO, which can go up to 1/600, and some other parameters such as contrast and saturation. But it is not a device that has the ability to take pictures in RAW. It doesn't have a mode to scan documents automatically, so you'll have to download another application to do that. And it is not able to scan QR codes directly from the camera application, but it does have a direct access to Google Lens, through which you will be able to scan these QR codes with ease. The 50 megapixel mode looks good, although not fully utilized, but you can notice a good level of detail even when cropping your photo. As you'll notice, although the shutter responds quickly, it's not really able to get the movements that well defined. Overall, it's a camera that we could say it delivers, but it's not spectacular. In the price range, I think we could not demand much more. Fortunately, it does give us good colors and good contrast. In fact, indoors it also performs well, reducing noise significantly and maintaining color intensity well. In backlit scenes, the preview does not look optimized, but thanks to the automatic HDR, the result is really good. In this case, unlike the front camera, it does manage to balance highlights and shadows better so that no area is completely burned out. We simply noticed a bit more chromatic aberration here that was not so noticeable in normal light scenes. Now let's look at pictures to analyze the zoom. Here we have, for starters, 5x digitally, which I think is a good quality that we have as a result. Although you can still go up to 10x, but here you see a little bit more forced zoom and you don't get to take full advantage of the resolution of the sensor. Remember that it doesn't have an ultra-wide camera, but it does have a panoramic mode with which you could capture more information. And it doesn't have a macro camera either, but the main camera does have autofocus, so you can perfectly take pictures of these small objects. Although again, since the capture speed is not that fast, if the object you are photographing is moving, it may come out a little blurry, but the bokeh effect of the background is very nice. It is also capable of taking portrait shots, although it does not detect objects. That's why I was telling you that this extra artificial intelligence camera is actually useless, because it's useless. If you don't have objects nearby, the result can be positive, but if you have objects, the result looks very artificial. At night, this camera behaves well. Fortunately, from the automatic mode, we have a positive result. But notice how when using the night mode, it manages to balance in a better way the more illuminated areas of the photograph. Here we have another environment where we had good lighting and we see good colors, only the darker areas do not appear with much detail. But using the night mode, you see that these darker areas manage to capture the lighting better. So overall, I think it does take good pictures at night if you use the night mode. Video recording can only go up to full HD at 30 frames per second. Even on the front side, it goes down to HD at 30 frames per second as well. So it is fully confirmed that the recording is very simple. While recording, we can take pictures or snapshots of the moments. We can also pause and resume the content, but we cannot turn on the flashlight when we have already started recording, nor can we rotate to the front camera once we are inside our clip. In the settings, you can disable the microphone when recording, and you can also tell it whether or not you want it to detect faces to give it priority to illuminate them when you are in backlit scenes. I find these two settings very useful. The video recording will be simple. It maintains a very similar color rendition to the photography, but here you're going to find some moments where the recording is more aggressive, and of course you're also going to notice that it doesn't feel like it's going at a very high bit rate. Overall, the video is simple. Indoors, what I liked was the good noise handling in the darker areas because it's practically unnoticeable and it keeps the colors well too. So here you don't feel such a considerable loss of quality as in other devices. In backlight, it's going to give priority to illuminating the face if you have the option enabled, so it's going to sacrifice some of the background. However, I like that through the settings you can choose what you want to light. The exposure jumps will also look a bit aggressive, so it's not as advisable to shoot in this type of scenario. You have to consider that it doesn't have either optical or digital stabilization, so even when walking you will feel a very aggressive movement, and when running you will feel it even more, so I don't recommend you to record in these conditions either. The zoom within the video seems to me to be of good quality, unlike other devices where you simply feel a stretched image. Here it seems that it does get to take better advantage of the sensor information, but the bad thing is that it has no stabilization and that spoils the result a lot. The focus will undoubtedly be a weak point because it does not react easily. In fact, it definitely does not respond until you touch the screen, giving a very bad result when you are recording dynamic scenes. So if you are recording moving things constantly, you have to be touching the screen to get it to focus, or else everything will be out of focus. Interestingly, it does have slow motion, but it is only in HD at about 20 frames per second, so it is very simple, not suitable for advanced use. It also has fast camera that goes in full HD, but it goes with auto speed and can go too fast, plus it feels at a low bit rate and no stabilization, so the results won't be as pleasing. The video recording at night will be good at capturing light, but unfortunately the focus suffers a lot and you will see many moments where it goes out of focus and will not have a good quality. Fortunately, the noise handling is very good because it is not very noticeable. In fast movements it might suffer a bit more and also have a hard time reducing noise, but that's something we can also accept in this price range. What is unfortunately unacceptable is the focus that, as I say, comes to suffer too much. Finally, the front camera has less resolution than the rear video, and also you are also going to notice that it has no stabilization. The backlight behavior is not good, so it is a very simple camera that I would only use for video calls, but not to record content, because really the backlight experience becomes very bad and also feels at a very low bit rate generating moments where the pixels are too noticeable. Fortunately, indoors again has a good treatment to reduce noise in the darker areas. However, the fact of not having so much definition makes that I cannot recommend this device to record. And this front camera at night records just with the expected quality. Yes, there is a lot of grainy presence, although fortunately you do not see an exaggerated noise in the darkest areas. Obviously, if you are not in an area with enough artificial light, will suffer much more, and here you will notice more noise in darker areas. Plus, you cannot turn on the screen to get you to illuminate a little more, so it is not recommended to record with this device at night. And remember that here on the front we have no slow motion, no fast motion, no dual mode. This device comes with Android 13, however, being from Realme one would expect the customization layer that always puts this manufacturer, but you will find few things related to it. The good thing about all this is that it does bring the latest version of the operating system, but unlike Realme devices, here we will not have so many added features. Realme calls this Layer T edition, but in reality, it is basically pure Android with some other Realme application, and especially with the launcher, which is the same home screen that have the other Realme devices. But everything else is very similar to what we see in pure Android devices, so it feels a very simple experience. Plus, they do not offer a guaranteed period of updates. In fact, it does not offer us additional features that we could get to highlight. It simply includes its own file management application, unlike devices that come with pure Android. It also has an alternative app store to Google Play called App Market, which is Realme's own, but that's basically it. It doesn't offer us sidebar, opening apps in floating window, or other more advanced features. The only thing it has is the feature to open apps in split screen, but not all apps are supported. However, this is a feature that all Android devices, at least recent ones, do have. The fingerprint reader that integrates this device is capable of registering up to 5 different fingerprints, and its operation is correct. Although it is a bit thin reader, so if you have very large fingers, you must register perfectly well in each area of your finger for the recognition to be correct. In addition to the fingerprint reader, this device offers a facial unlock, but it is only in 2 dimensions, so I do not recommend it if your priority is security, because this device also indicates that it could be unlocked accidentally by a person similar to you. And unlike other Realme devices, it doesn't offer us more options like a secure folder, a kids mode, or an app lock mode, so the experience feels very simple, even though it has an app called Security Center, but overall it offers us all the options it should. The battery is 5000 milliamps, however in my test it honestly performed a little less than the average performance of devices with the same capacity. It took me 2.25 hours to discharge 50% of its battery, running YouTube in the foreground while running the power drainer in the background, which is the task I always do. So honestly, the battery doesn't seem to be a very positive issue. Fortunately, it comes with an ultra power saving mode, which could come to your aid in critical moments where you already have very little power left on the device, and it also allows you to add 3 apps that you still consider essential. And it also has a traditional power saving mode for day-to-day use. This keeps running applications that are running in the background, even if they are consuming a lot of energy, unless you tell it here that you want to definitely optimize and close it. One positive thing is that it supports 33-watt charging, so it will charge considerably faster. In 15 minutes it recovered 27% of the energy, in 30 minutes it recovered 49%, and the full charge was completed in just under an hour and a half. For the price range, charging is probably one of its few strengths. Connectivity will not be a highlight, as it simply has enough and what one would expect from a device in this price range. That is Wi-Fi 5, Bluetooth 5, 4G networks, but unlike traditional Realme devices, this one, which comes with a trimmed-down operating system, does not have the option to lock data for specific applications. Fortunately, it does have NFC to support mobile payments with Google Wallet or other compatible banking apps. It is also capable of projecting its screen wirelessly, although it will only project to Chromecast if you don't have this option enabled. Fortunately, however, Realme does incorporate other protocols for projection that is a bit more compatible with other screens. Remember that it also has Android Auto to connect it to your car. And another of its strengths will be the sensors, as they work well and it comes with a good number of sensors, without me ever detecting any major absence. In fact, the proximity sensor itself is a physical sensor that is enabled with relative ease, unlike other devices that have virtual sensors and can perform a bit inaccurately. So it's really appreciated that Realme didn't cut corners on incorporating this vital element. The Realme ecosystem by and large is a good thing. However, since this device comes with different software in the T edition, it doesn't have good integration with all other devices from the same brand. So despite being Realme, it doesn't feel like a Realme cell phone that connects well to Realme Buds, that connects easily to the watch and other interactions. So definitely in this aspect, the ecosystem is not something that's going to stand out on this device. In terms of cloud storage, you're relying on Google with what it offers you in Google Drive, and the control of the Internet of Things is also through Google Home. So Realme here still has a long way to go if it wants to give the user a 100% complete experience. Let's go to our app opening test, and as always I tell you the specifications that this device has. Since its processor is a bit unknown, it is a Unisoc Tiger T612, a processor manufactured in a 12nm process, so it is not very efficient in power consumption, as you already realized. Fortunately, it has 6GB of RAM, which we'll test in a moment to see if it's capable of keeping applications open. 4.4 seconds on average it took to open each of these apps. It's not too bad, honestly, for its price range, but you can definitely find much more powerful devices in this price range if you look hard enough. Fortunately, notice that the RAM seems to be being well managed because we're not seeing app restarts, and this is a rare thing to see on devices in this price range, which generally come with 4GB of RAM, and you're going to see a lot of restarts like this one we just saw. However, here it's the first one we've witnessed, whereas on other devices from the first app swap I do, it always restarts. So, RAM is one of its strengths without a doubt. The storage meets within what one would expect. In this price range, having 128GB is a good thing, and you can also expand it another 2TB through a micro SD card. We're going to see how this device performs when scrolling through social networks, uploading images and videos, and honestly, it performs considerably well. Obviously, you're going to see moments where it's a little bit clunky or a little bit stuck, but it's still a good experience in this price range. I think we could not get too demanding, although I insist that you will find alternatives that go much smoother. Now let's go to the test of exporting a video. These videos have been recorded in full HD with this device and add up to a total of 1 minute, joining 4 clips. That's it. It took about 49 seconds. I think that's not bad considering editing video in full HD. For games, this device does not incorporate any special suite that adds more options or anything like that, so the software experience is very simple. In Call of Duty, by default, this device loads in low-quality graphics at a medium frame rate. However, it does upload at medium quality and high frame rate, but it doesn't have all the effects available that we would like. Unfortunately, this device did not let us do specific monitoring of the number of frames per second and the like, however, the result is acceptable. At the end of our test, the temperature was between 1 and 36 degrees Celsius, so it's going well, let's say. It doesn't heat up and the game does feel smooth. The only curious thing you may notice is that if you have the device connected to the USB cable and it is charging or connected to the computer, the screen stops responding correctly. In Asphalt 9, this device does not have 60 frames per second mode available and by default loads simple graphics. This game is not too complex and the device can run it in a fluid way, although it does not have the 60 frames per second mode as I anticipated, but what I like is that it does not raise its temperature in a drastic way. In this case, it got up to 36.7 degrees Celsius, giving us a good experience. In the SpongeBob game, it defaults to medium resolution and medium quality at 30 frames per second. For testing, we simply went up to 60 frames per second. We would have liked to have specific monitoring, but what we could notice is that the device does have some significant moments of frame per second dropouts or where the screen stops responding accurately. So, I wouldn't highly recommend this device if you're one of those who have a very specialized game and want the touch to respond fast, because here the touches don't respond fast and the graphics aren't that impressive either. However, if you're not so demanding, yes, you can get to run this type of content without too much inconvenience. Finally, Genshin Impact by default loads the graphics quality very low, and for the test we left it there, but we went up to 60 frames per second. With this, we confirm that in the same price range you are going to find much more powerful things to play with, although not necessarily this device will give you a bad experience. It definitely gives you a playable experience because it is not freezing every time or freezes completely, but definitely, as I said, in the same price range you will find much more powerful processors that allow you to load more advanced graphics. Since in this case, the test was with the lowest graphics quality, and as you can see, it does not feel an exaggeratedly smooth experience, but fortunately stable enough. And that's it. For the moment, this is all about Realme C53. I hope you liked this video review. If you did, you know you can tell us, and we'll see you next time.